Happy Saturday! We're here! We made it! We woke up less than half an hour ago, but we're here! And we made it. And there's no bloody mistakes up there! Look at that! It even says the right title! All three of us are here. We have the right name on our face. I mean, we're a touch late. Whatever.
But perfection takes time.
Perfection does take time. You know, we've been on time so many times with errors. This is the perfect start to do pen and paper design on. So, who remembers anything about this game?
I mean, luckily we did a tiny bit of review before the audio started.
Yeah. I can get you links. You want links? Check this shit out. We got links. We got like sausage links up in this shit.
Sausage. Have some Doomslayer crotch in the meantime.
Doomslayer sausage.
That is Doomslayer sausage, yeah. Share. Copy. Oops, that's not magic system, that's combat system. There's my mistake. There it is. It's been done. I've done it. Let me get those into bot now. Get them into bot. You guys can jump on to page. We're going to start with combat system. We're going to review the stuff we did in combat and maybe refine some of it. And then we're going to move on to magic. Because we made a lot of...
decisions.
Oh, per is perception. Okay. I was like, strength per dagger bow. I was like, what? Things you can do in ranged combat. Yeah, bounce attacks off surfaces, target specific body part. Okay, that's the old stuff. Initiative is newer. D20 value plus roll. Oh yeah, that's the ways to approach it. Shadowrun, high value, 10 points of initiative per action. Highest goes first. WAD, opposite D20. Lowest declares first, highest declares last. All act at the same time, which is what we were going for.
Yeah, that was our preferred system.
And then we have different modify. We have the example modifiers down here. An aggressor on guard. Somebody on guard. A surprise attack. Or aggressor advantage. Like, I don't know how I saw aggressor on guard. Aggressor advantage is like, you know, there's people on the other side of the door and you're getting ready to assault them and you're going to blow the door open and just start firing on them. You're going to get an aggressor advantage because you're initiating the attack, and you're probably going to get a surprise attack advantage on top of that and get like +6 initiative on that round. And that makes sense, you know? Yeah. You blow up a wall and start shooting at people, you're probably going to get the drop on them. You're probably going to have a little better initiative.
A touch.
So I'm going to go to say that that's the one that's been chosen. Yeah. Combat turn. We have 3 actions so far. Optional actions, of course. Defense action, main action, movement action. Is that going to change? I think we had more than that already.
We had started talking about bonus actions for interacting with things. Like if you have an equipment with an effect or something like that, it would take a bonus action to activate it. And we had started talking about deciding if we wanted to have those bonus actions gained through stats. And I don't remember what conclusion we came to on that.
I don't remember that idea. I don't really like that idea. I just don't want somebody with low stats to have, like, low stats in specific areas to have very little options for their choices in combat. And then, you know, every time their combat choice comes around, they're like, I do this one thing. and then everyone else takes a long time and gets to do all sorts of stuff, and it just doesn't sound like very much fun comparatively.
Yeah, like I said, I have no recollection of what conclusion we came to.
That's why I was just assuming we don't
about
have
an idea like
conclusion.
that, but that's all I remember.
Okay, well, we can talk about that right now then. That's where we can start. That's something that needs hashing. Let's hash the shit out of it.
So for our main actions, if I recall correctly, that's something like casting a spell, attacking, doing a thing. Like that's what you want to spend the majority of your turn doing.
Yep.
Our defensive actions,
Parry, block,
counter, which
stuff
is
like that.
what gives the ability to use it against multiple targets power.
Yep.
Because otherwise you can only do that once per turn. You're only, you've got dojo experience, but no live combat experience, sort of thing.
Absolutely.
And then movement is movement. You should be able to move.
Yeah.
Not being able to move would be lame.
You should also not have to explain a movement action. That's when you move. Like the action says.
No, we did agree on movement. Interesting.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Once again,
very
no
defined.
recollection of that. It's actually one of the things that I was always very unhappy with in D20. It was the movement system. I always thought it was very restrictive.
I kind of like that we have included in there what determines how far you can move for like our thought process, size, and limbs contacting ground. And now I'm picturing like weird grafted people with dozens of legs skittering around and stuff from fucking Elden Ring.
Jesus.
Oh, of course he's fast. Look how many legs he's got.
More legs equals more fast, right?
Yeah, well, hey,
I mean-
it worked for the fucking insect men, fucking disgusting pest people things.
God, those things are so mobile.
And disgusting. It's one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen in a game. First time I saw one of those, I was like, oh, God. Oh, what is that?
Just imagining like a giant ball with just a bunch of legs and it just rolls.
I love it.
It'll probably be pretty fast.
All right legs.
There's another
rolls
ball that's
on
all
right
left legs.
Who's that?
They're
That's
just
my
immortal
brother.
enemies.
I've got my tea now. I'm happy. I'm going to have caffeine soon. But if I sip it right now, I'm not going to have a tongue. So, 5 seconds is a turn. Sprinting is 2 times speed. Okay. So let's add another action in there. Bonus action? Is that what we're thinking? I don't really like the word bonus.
We were talking about it.
I definitely
don't know
agree
that we
with
had
one.
actually decided on anything. Like we need something for item use and activation. I'm
Handing something to
struggling
someone?
think. I'm struggling to think like
Okay, let's do this. Hold
how
on.
we're gonna handle item interaction, because we haven't really talked about items at all.
What is not covered by current turns? Item use, passing things to other players. What else? Chat as well.
We
Just throw out
did-
ideas. What isn't covered by a defense, a main, and a movement?
We did talk about specifically handing things over to other characters and decided that if the other character is willing and it's not like some unwieldy thing, you can just do it. But you couldn't, like, give them a boulder to throw or something if you've got low strength or low magic, so you couldn't create one. But The big question in my mind is item interaction, because we're going to have items that are meaningful.
Yep, things will be used in combat. Things will be done in combat. Even sending a message or, talking to someone. What about that? Talking to other players. Do we just let them talk and take their time and choose their decisions, or relaying information to people, battlefield information?
I feel like restricting the amount your characters can talk would be realistic, but unfun.
I agree. Passing things to other players and item use seems like it can definitely lump together.
Yeah.
What else is there for minor actions in combat? Standing up? Is that a movement? That take your movement, I guess?
I would say that's probably movement.
Equipping and unequipping?
Yes. While those rules are often ignored by groups, the rules should be there.
Yep. Big agree. Maybe we should put them into their own little modular rule set. Make sure it's modular. The actions in there too. Okay. You can tell all of our brains are still in the process of waking up. We're like, ideas? Well, Pseudo came up with something. That's enough, isn't it? I really want to sip this tea that's right here in my hand, but I don't want to lose my tongue.
Tragedy of fresh tea.
Get a straw.
Just right to the throat. Just kill that instead.
Sounds horrible. Now I'm imagining pouring scalding hot water into the back of someone's throat.
No.
Oh, that's horrible.
No thanks.
All right. I think that's it. Unequipping and equipping. We're going to stop there, and if we think of something else later, like, oh, we didn't add this one, then we'll add it then. There's no point in beating our head into the wall if we're not coming up with anything else.
So, because our system is period agnostic, we have to consider things like grenades or other consumable items that are functionally an attack, but is also an item interaction. Like if you're pulling out a grenade, you've got to get it out of your pouch and then pull the pin on it and then throw it. Like there's no way that isn't taking up your main action.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also the whole, like, if you've got a healing potion, you need to get it out of your pouch, you need to uncork it, and then you need to drink it. Mm-hmm. That also takes time.
Mm-hmm. So the way I interpret it, getting out of pouch should be an action. Right, and then both of those, you're taking your get out of pouch action to pull out grenade and or potion. Attacking with grenade is a main action. Because you have to aim, find target, assess, pull pin, throw, take time for it to do. You know, that's a full-on action in combat. When a combat turn is 5 seconds, that's your turn.
Yeah.
And then the pulling out potion. Again, pulling out is a own little action. Probably, I'd say maybe equipping, unequipping could be a main action for a 5 second turn.
Not sold on that idea.
I'm just thinking of how long it takes me to pull out a weapon and ready it. 5 seconds seems reasonable.
Well, not if it's a melee weapon.
depending where it's
or if
kept.
it's or if it's a firearm that's, in a sling.
I guess there's also the question of like, would it be like a quick action, like a belt that you would have grenades on versus, going through a bag. Same with like having a sword in a sheath on your hip versus, having a dagger in your bag.
I mean, like one readied action? The ability to
Or
use an item that's been readied?
Or like if there's the concept of like, readied slots. Like there's, like I said, if it's in a belt and you have, a certain amount of grenades in a belt, and that's your whole thing is you're throwing grenades. I think that might make sense that, okay, you can just throw them from there because you just grab and throw it. But if it's in your bag, it requires, a search or a look.
Yeah, you don't need to use your get out of bag action at that point, basically. It's already prepared.
Yeah. But then what can happen is that when you're grabbing grenades from your bag, so you throw all 5 in your belt, when you go to your bag, you can then grab all 5 and put them back on your belt as an action, as like a full action, rather than just grabbing one and then having it ready. You can at least, grab a bunch and have them ready, so it's not like every other turn you're just sifting through this bag. There's kind of like a cache per se for the
yeah.
for the
I understand where you're going with
your L4 cache.
Yeah, so you can have some sort of readied slots, and same with like weapons. You can have, as many weapons as you want in your bag, but you will have a specific slot for, equipped, and then maybe another one for, sheathed, if you want to be able to, swap it in some other special maybe circumstances. If you want to drop it ever in your current hand and grab one that's in a readied slot, then sure, you can do that, but just remember to pick it up after.
Yeah. And I believe that's less L4 cache and more C4 cache.
But, well, wouldn't it be C1?
Probably.
But the thing that I immediately think of is my character Evie, who did a year-long campaign and broke about 17 swords in it.
Yeah, these rules won't be Breath of the Wild rules, though.
No, that's just how she rolled. She just broke swords. It's just what she did. I don't know why.
Because of silly crit fail mechanics is why. We've gotten rid of that shit.
But I think there should be times at which your weapon can break.
I definitely don't want it to be that
haven't
normal,
captured.
though. I definitely don't want it to be that normal.
No, we'll find a more elegant way to do it. But
And there's always disarm.
True, there is also disarm. Like if somebody's got the ability to attack certain body parts on you, then they could knock your sword out of your hand, etc.
I attempt to de-arm that person. You mean disarm?
No.
Well, what I'm thinking of is like a mage that has the ability to move matter, and they try to move the sword, but then miss and move the shoulder and just rip it out. Oops.
We'll talk more about matter or magic at that time, but I think there will be some. Yeah. We'll have to do more clarification between what's living and what's matter. We'll have to sharply limit those in what each one can do and encourage
is it a cell?
Multiple magics. Yeah, pretty much. Is it alive? If not, then your magic won't affect it unless you're using life magic. It's kind of how I see it. So let's add this action. One.
And most of what we've got there is readying something.
One ready action.
No, is it though? Because we were talking about splitting out the ready action from the use action. And I don't like heal or attack. Like as a choice. I don't want that to be a choice I have to make. So if you've got a potion belt strapped on you wherever, you can whip out your potion and chug it in less than 5 seconds.
You get a ready action, so you can fill your readied slots. Right? So like if you have a grenade pouch on, like a grenade belt, you got the 5 pouches on it, you can go pop, 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 with that action. If you've got like, a healing potion ready to go in combat, and you've already used it, you can pop a new potion on there. But using that potion only took your readied action. So if you needed to drink the potion and pop a new one on there, you could, and then attack. That seems like a lot.
What if we rolled ready into your main action?
I was thinking roll ready into
readying
use.
an item. That's too powerful, I think.
I mean, it's less powerful. When I say roll it in, I mean you get to choose one. You can either ready an item or use a ready item.
That is not how I would use the phrase roll it in.
Okay. I was thinking like merge them together, make them the same action. You have to choose them. You can fill up those grenade slots, or you can use your grenade.
If you've got to dig through your bag for whatever it is, I almost feel like that should be your main action. Because like you gotta reach into your bag. It's not ready. But on the other hand, if you've got a potion belt and you have potions in it and you need to use a potion, you can just grab it from there. It's all set. It's all ready to go. You know exactly where it is. You can just use it.
Okay, so we're going to leave it as use ready item, but take out ready item.
Yeah, and we'll need to define our main action as like combat, ready item, etc.
Yep. Do we need more than these 4 actions? Ready an item, movement, main, and defense? What is the purpose of a readied item if we only ready items and then using it as a use action? I guess because you can't use it if it's not readied. Yeah, that's the point.
But then we may... Well, I think it's... my brain started going when only half of this idea was formed.
So at this point, you can heal in 1 turn if you don't have it readied, but you can't attack if you didn't have your heal readied.
Which I think is a good compromise.
Yeah.
But if you've got 5 grenades on your grenade belt, you can throw all 5 and then attack.
No, you can use a readied item. You'd be able to... but we agreed that using the grenade is the main action, because that's an attack, because you have to identify a target and adjust your arc and do all that. That's a good 5 seconds to aim your grenade and throw it. I think anything that takes aim is a main action.
Yeah. My brain is moving very slowly.
I'm going to speed mine up with caffeine.
I think if we have the delineation between actions that affect things that aren't you and actions that affect things that are you, to sort of delineate whether or not you can use that item in your use ready item action or if it has to be your main action. I think that's a good way to split it.
That was a lot of words. The way I see it is just, do you have to aim the thing?
Which is effectively what I said,
yeah.
But not quite. The key difference there is, even if you're like, you've got a readied item and you want to pass it to a person, then that consumes your readied item. But if you want to throw it, no. Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, ignore me.
No worries. I want to make sure that the thought gets finished in your brain and you're happy with where we end up still. So, main action, let's... what is not covered by current item use? I think is still not covered. Passing to other players, we haven't talked about. Equipping, and yeah, we'll leave all that there.
So if you wanted to activate a special rune or something on your mage armor, that item would be considered readied if you have it equipped. Otherwise, it would consume your main.
Equip it, yeah. So equipping, unequipping, it sounds like it's going to be a main action.
Yes.
So we got that covered. Defining actions. Main action. Anything that needs to be aimed. Nades and other projectiles. Equipping / equipping items. Unequipping and putting away. I put them into different ones because I thought of the situation where, you know, something's wrong with my armor. I just want to drop it on the ground. Or yeah, something wrong with my sword. I'm not bothering to sheath it. I'm just going to drop it and punch the guy. It's much easier. You want to steal my broken sword? Go for it.
I don't care.
What else is a main phase? Spells. Any spell being cast, targeted or not. Not all spells need to be aimed.
Melee attacks also should probably be called out because there will be people who go, oh, you don't need to aim that.
Yes, they do need to be aimed. If anybody wants to argue. Yep, blind monk playthrough. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
I don't aim. I'm just very lucky.
You must have really high precision. Nope, luck stat.
Yep. The Fallout method of you just max luck and everything else scales up with you. It's fine. Can't get hit. Don't need health if you can't get hit.
Fallout method, you're a blind monk, but you use an SMG. God guide these bullets.
Or just a shotgun. Just a sawn off, and just the bullets just somehow just always land on target. Everything's just the broadside of the barn. It's fine.
What else would need to be in your main?
Better yet, he doesn't actually hit his target, but he's blind, so he just assumes he does.
It'd be really interesting, like, a whole campaign of this, and then at the very end, it just turns out he's just been shooting random stuff. Yeah. And this is just what the whole, like, animation, the whole series is just what he thinks has been going on the whole time. But in reality, he's just been, like, shooting random things, trees, and other things that are just in his way.
There was never actually any conflict. He's just a little confused.
It all zooms out from his perspective, and he's just this really high guy in his underwear running around shooting kids with a BB gun.
God.
Thank you,
that captures
South
the
Park
main?
for that one. That was my favorite fucking part in South Park. It's the best fucking episode. It was Major Boobage, where it's like the heavy metal-esque style episode. Yeah. The whole animation style is heavy metal because they keep huffing cat urine and getting really high off it and getting these crazy hallucinations. Yeah, cheesing. And there's this one part where Kenny and Kyle's father are having this epic duel in the arena of boobage because they're both high as shit, and it zooms out and they're just both in their underwear slapping each other in the sandbox in the middle of public. Don't use drugs, people. Might end up slapping a grade 4 kid in his underwear in a sandbox.
And it will be your proudest moment. But I think that more or less sums up your main action.
I think so.
Your defense action is using your defensive abilities.
I think that's about it, really.
Yeah, but it needs to be separated out because otherwise you'd only be able to defend. and that would get lame real fast.
100% agree. 100% agree.
Movement does what it says on the tin.
And use ready item action. Use an item that has been RE80ID for combat use. And I really like the idea of this because it allows us to really jazz up armor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like now when you buy your armor, you can choose like how many readied slots are on it and stuff like that.
And we still haven't fleshed out what we really want to do with durability as far as I remember. Because we like the idea of armor being breakable, but don't like the idea of having to track that.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm okay with no durability system. I am. But if we can come up with a really good one, I'm okay with implementing something. But I'm totally okay with gear just not breaking. Not Breath of the Wild. Please. Please no. Please no. Combat turns are pretty solid. Item use. Where does item use go?
You can only use readied items, and it's part of your main to ready an item.
Have it not matter most of the time, but have special mob attacks that have a chance to take off durability? Maybe. It wouldn't be a chance to take off durability if it was just special mob attacks. It would be a chance to break the item.
Yeah.
Because we have no durability mechanic to track at that point.
The inconsistency would be problematic.
It would have to make a lot of sense for the time, like a rust monster. Which is a thing.
Or the gelatinous cube.
Yeah.
Eats your stuff. I hate those things.
Yep. Stick your sword in it and your sword just keeps going into it and then dissolves. Fuck! I needed that! How am I gonna kill you now? You just ate my sword! Also, striking things with something that they then eat makes you think twice about hitting them with it again.
True. Although beating something to death with its food is satisfying.
Just picturing somebody chasing a cop around throwing donuts at him now. I got a cop station right across the road from me. I could go do that.
I don't think they would take kindly to that. Maybe
so.
A poor decision.
Probably get me in trouble. It'd be a lot of fun with a box of Timbits for a bit, though.
$7 and an arrest record? It's fine.
Set it up as a modular mechanic. Yep. Yeah. We want to keep a lot of the mechanics modular so that when you go to play it, you've got your core system, and then you're like, oh, I really like these, and I really like these, and I really like these. Stick them into your game. A lot of fun. Literally build your own pen and paper.
Passing things to other players can be done as part of a readied item action if that item is readied. Talking to other players, like it doesn't make sense to be able to have big conversations in the middle of combat, but at the same time, I really don't want to restrict players who really want to RP.
Yep. Passing is the same as using an item. It must. And that means you can actually pass an unreadied item in one turn, but you need to spend your main to ready it and then pass it.
Yeah.
And you don't need a free readied slot. Can we agree on this? Your hand
you
can count as a readied slot.
You don't need a free readied slot, but readied slots really help.
Yeah. No, I mean, you don't need a free readied slot to be able to pull it out, ready it, and pass it to somebody. Your hand can count as that readied slot. We don't even need to write that down, I think. Just let them talk. And you do not need a free readied slot to pass. Your hand can count as a readied slot. I wrote it down anyway. Okay, movement's done. We're happy there. Mage armor we talked about. Increases work total needed for a spell in a 1 square area around the wearer. This means huddling up and hugging can save someone. We're okay with this.
Yeah. And it also makes the magic more difficult to cast if it originates from inside that area.
Yep. So it can also be like an area effect thing. It doesn't have to be on a person. You could like have a room where the whole room is dampened. Right. Like I'm sure that, you know, anybody wanted by the mages will have a highly dampened room. They're going to be hiding out in places like that. Stuff like this. You know, there are steps you can take to hide yourself from these mages. And it ain't easy. It ain't easy to hide from a mage. If they want to find you, they'll fucking find you.
But, like, you gotta do it.
All right. Magic system. We've done it. We've reviewed enough combat to have an understanding to re-review our magic system. Actually, review. We haven't re-reviewed it. We've only viewed it once. We've never reviewed it. So this is the review, not the... Certainly not the re-review.
No, most definitely not.
Does everyone use magic? No. Is magic a class? No. Do we have classes? No. Can magic be learned after creation, or is it innate? Can be learned. So not everyone uses it, but everyone is capable.
Almost everyone is capable. The only reason you would be incapable is if you chose to be incapable.
Yeah. You could RP an incapability by just not spending those points to take it. And then you're way stronger because you don't have to spend all those points to get magic. Those points are well spent still, though.
Oh yeah, magic crazy strong.
But it is expensive, and you can be quite strong. Like, I bet you can get like a couple points of advantage in your melee and like physical prowess and stuff if you don't take magic, like at the start, before you start spending your points. Which is really how it should be.
Having a focused build is always stronger than spreading yourself thin.
I've been trying to tell that to all the Elden Ring players that have been popping into my stream. A lot of them are like, oh, I want to use this and this and this. I'm like, if you only use one, it'll be better.
That's why my character is level 55 and has like 30 strength.
I'm much higher than you now, but I have like 55 strength, so...
I went hard. I went hard on the strength.
Well, 55 strength, I'm pretty hard on strength. That's definitely my highest stat by far. And then I found an offhand casting implement that lets me cast incantations and scale them off of my strength.
Which I'm very pleased exists.
Me too. Okay, knowledge, wisdom, resolve, and influence all have 1. Force and energy are combined because it makes it much easier to differentiate them. Less arguments will happen. Senses and thoughts become mind. So we really have force, which is energy as well. Force, matter, living, and thought.
Yeah.
I feel like the magic is getting stronger as we merge these groups.
Yes, but I don't think unmerging them is a good idea. I think we need to add more counterplay. rather than changing how they're structured now. I think this makes the most sense.
Yep, I agree. But I do think something needs to be done because it is getting crazy strong. So we need to get really, really good at our definitions and organizations of limitations of each one so that you really need to be taking multiple to be accomplishing the really cool stuff. Really, really cool stuff definitely needs multiple. So let's define spheres of influence for each one. Okay. So this is sort of where we figure out what, like, you know, if it has this, it must be this type of magic. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah. If you are casting a spell that has a component that affects this or, does something with it, then you have to have at least some of that school of magic.
Yep. And we will take a look at some examples after this to show, like, this is this and this is this and this is just that, and give some examples of how it should be split up. Try to make it logical. Knowledge, so force, energy. Anything physics related, really.
Yeah. That's why we dubbed them the physics mage.
So if you're using any sort of energy or you need, if you're trying to make something move, that's force. You need that magic. If it's an artificial movement. If you're just putting something on a hill and letting it roll down the hill, that's gravity creating the motion. That's fine. Something else made it.
Yeah, it's like the example we used of creating a boulder on top of somebody and dropping it on them versus throwing a boulder at somebody. Throwing a boulder at somebody is your physics mage, and just creating the boulder and letting gravity do the work is pure matter.
Yeah, so if you wanted to create shards of rock and throw them at people, you would need knowledge and wisdom. But if you wanted to just create shards of rock and rain them on people, you just need matter. The raining isn't going to hurt nearly as much as the projectiles. A force matter mage with, like, a dinky wooden gun that is actually a railgun that launches rocks.
Is why restrict yourself to rocks? Create tungsten.
I like the rocks. I like the rocks. I got
a rock.
Yeah, that's what the guy will be saying. Like, I got a rock.
Yeah, but if you can drop a tungsten rod on somebody from space, then they get obliterated. That's fun too.
Oh, you could make it ice. Then it'll just melt after it hits them.
It would also melt in the atmosphere, though.
Who said anything about atmosphere? Doesn't have to come from that far. You're going to hit critical mass way before you come through the atmosphere, or critical velocity way before you go through
terminal
the atmosphere.
velocity.
Terminal, thank you.
Hi.
And resolve anything that contains living matter. Shape, heal, change, or alter in any way. So, that's like healing people, causing harm to people, fun stuff like that.
I still think physics life mage is absurd because you can just turn off the electrical signals in their brain.
I'd call that destroy though. That is destroying the signals, and that is maximum levels of magic.
You would need to destroy knowledge, but you would need only update matter or update life.
Yep.
Any
5 and 3
spheres of influence at a high level are going to be pretty broken. That's why we're going to have to kind of balance the whole mage armor, and there's going to have to be at least some framework of lore that people will have to use, or some limitation on magic in that sense, because like it's it'll get pretty bonkers. You just like, oh, no oxygen, do we have to breathe? Oh, put you in a vacuum and you're just gonna get crushed. How you like atmospheric pressure, or just boil blood?
The counterplay to that, or rather the restriction on that we've thought of so far, is work totals. Yep. Where if you wanted to do that, it would take many turns, because that is a huge amount of magic.
Yep. And that's what we're going to get to here pretty soon, is getting to the work totals and then how to actually complete the magic, so that when we're getting to the aggrandized spells, like, yeah, sure, you can cast a spell that'll, create enough gravity to crush that whole building and kill every person in it, but it might take you a day or two.
But there's the other things that are with it too, like creating. If you can create matter, then what's preventing you from creating a ricin right above the person's face or in their mouth, or just anywhere in that general area?
Well, enclose their head.
It's small. Steel. It's small, but the impact is huge. So it's going to be hard to balance that.
Yep, ricin's organic matter, so I would say that would be resolved then, not matter, but life. But that's okay. It's still possible. Eldritch Horror would be setting, and we're not worried about setting.
Yeah, we want this system to be able to be used wherever. Doesn't matter what setting you use it in.
However, if you want me to write an Eldritch Horror story, we can talk.
So then senses and thoughts are some character's perception of the world. You're not actually changing the world, just how they perceive it. Or adjusting the way that they think about something. To actually implant a thought would be an incredible amount of work, but you could say, make somebody feel less angry that they stubbed their toe fairly easily.
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas creating the thought would be another level up. Yeah. And more work.
Yeah.
You're just updating a thought, changing it. You're not changing it into something entirely. You're just sort of updating its properties.
Whereas if you wanted to make somebody happy that they stubbed their toe, that would be much more expensive on a work scale, because it is really significantly changing how they're thinking about that thing.
Nope. Mobs follow the exact same rules as players. They need to. They may have special abilities if they're Eldritch Horrors, but they'll still follow the same rule set.
Much like in Bloodborne, bosses can do all sorts of things that you can't, but they do follow the same base rule set.
Yep. Yeah, they don't do anything special on the rules that you don't. And they all follow the same rules of the bosses, like Limb Stagger.
Stagger real good.
Okay.
You could absolutely do that for a game that you run with this system.
Yeah, that sounds, again, very setting specific. And we might go back after we're finished the system and be like, here's some little rule sets you can apply for individual settings. Hey, you can make like this game or that game or that game. But I don't think an Uncanny Sense would apply really well to a global scale sort of application.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense for a modern military campaign, for instance.
Okay, so how do we figure out how much work is needed for a spell? What do we see the average work being done? 2 to 4 per turn?
Well, initially we had hypothesized that it would be 3 to 4 times the level of the spell. Just down at the bottom of the page there.
Yep.
I think working with a system like that makes sense for something that would be considered an easy task. Because you can, like we've discussed before, the max delta that you can get in a single turn is 36.
Yeah, when you're at max skill level and you're doing something that is a max challenge rating.
So if you're doing something that is a trivial task, maybe it's considered a read action, it would be 6 points. You could easily do that in a single turn with everything that you've got going for you when you're a master of that school of magic. But if you've only unlocked level 2 of that magic, it's possible that you do it in a single turn because you'll have a +2 and you need to roll 4 or better without considering any equipment or anything that might be boosting that. And the end result is you still get to do it in 1 turn, but it is also possible that it takes you more than 1 turn to do because you're just not that high ranked. This is the cap of what you can do right now.
All of these numbers that we've already talked about are still sounding really good. Sounds like it might work.
We built a good system.
So, like if we're doing like a level 2 task, ignoring the plus, just the raw delta, we're rolling 2 dice, they're rolling 2 dice, we get 12, they get 2, delta 10, then all the changes come in. So really, if you're at like a skill 2, a 10 is like the highest you can roll. But the average probably going to be like 2 or 3.
What was the average on 2 die pseudo? Was it 7?
Yes.
Yep.
So if you're rolling a 7, it would still be very much possible for you to do it in a single turn because the minimum they can roll is 2, and that would be assumed like you it's an action that you can just do. It would be assumed that they roll something like a 2. The bonus that you would have is a +2 just from unlocking that school of magic to the 2nd level. So your total would be 9, which would give you 7 for your work total for that turn.
The more we talk about the work needed, the more I think this magic system is going to work because it's just going to be slow for the effects.
For anything that's big. And like we set out as a guideline is 3 to 4 times the level is your guideline for the amount of work that you need to do. So if you want to have a big effect, then you need to be able to achieve a lot of work. And the stronger you are, the more work you can achieve in a shorter amount of time.
I'm going to test it at 4 times. We're going to start expensive because it is strong.
I posted a thing in the game dev channel in Discord, and it's a thing that lets you check the probability of dice combinations. Might be useful later.
Nice, thanks.
Hit a button. There we go. Hey, stop that. The statistical difference between 2d6 and 3d4. They both have a maximum of 12, but both the minimums and the averages are higher with 3d4. This is especially applicable for character generation. Yep. This is all true. Rolling 1d10, keeping the highest average roll of 5.5. Rolling 2d10, keeping the highest average roll of 7.15.
Yeah. I don't have to worry about the dropping formula and stuff, but you can just type like 4d6 and you'll get the full spread, which is pretty neat.
Oh yeah. Oh, cool. When you actually, like here, I typed 46 and this is what you get. For a distribution of values.
Neat.
It's actually kind of wonderful. 11.3%
really cool
probability
tool.
of 14. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can take your standard deviations from there to kind of get categories and groups of probabilities, likely, like the likelihoods, because it's on one side and the other side too, right? They'll even distribution. Math.
Yay! And you can, if I put the Discord link in, if you want that tool that Pseudo just linked, it's in our game dev channel. You know, okay. So we're gonna test it 4 times. That sounds right.
I think 4 times will feel a bit much at low levels.
That's okay.
Hitting 8 points for read is going to be really hard. But we'll have to play it and find out.
Yeah, I'm assuming that it's gonna have to be adjusted, but we gotta start somewhere, and the general consensus is magic is OP. So let's start high.
Yeah.
Spell level equals min needed to cast for each sphere. Sphere combination examples. This is one of the most important parts, really. This is where our magic system starts to make sense to people.
Because otherwise it's just like, why would you ever not be a mage?
I mean, the sphere combination examples. Otherwise it's like, what? How do I do what now? So let's give some examples. Creating a boulder in the air to drop on someone. Matter 3. Nope, 4.
You could argue that it's 3 if you consume the oxygen atoms in the air to do it, but that would be more work. Because you'd have to do more transformation rather than just create a thing.
I'm pretty sure it's just creation at that point. To create it out of air is just creation.
Yeah, but it isn't though. Not if you consume the materials around you.
You'd have to consume so much of the oxygen, you'd probably suffocate everybody in the area.
Oh yeah. And that's why it would be a huge work total.
Yeah, it's not even a calculatable work total at that point. It's just creating. Creating out of air is creating. Where's the update? Update. Similar forms. There we go. Physical matter into physical matter, not air into physical matter. You can turn that air into another type of air, though. Another type of gas. Suspension of disbelief in setting? Huh?
Man, that really makes me want to build in like a phase change mechanic for matter mages, but that would definitely be a modular rule.
What was I doing?
I ask myself the same thing every 10 minutes.
Yep. That would just be matter 4. Heal a wound. Life 3.
There's it's kind of it's unfortunately the burden's on us right now providing a framework to explain some of the questions that might arise. And that can definitely be one of them. Just be like, don't ask questions. The suspense, it's up to player interpretation. But the problem there is since we're kind of making a bit of a rule set, it then kind of lends itself to be exploited. So it's an interesting part of game design. They're called complete systems, or I can't remember what the terminology is for, or the closed system at least. If it's an open system, it means you kind of have loopholes, or you have things that, if they're ambiguous enough to the player, well, there's exploits available to them. So you kind of have to have at least some level of discretion. But at least the nice thing about pen and paper games is that at the end of the day, the DM is, the controller of the world, and they can just be like, no.
Yeah.
Well, why does it do that? Because I say so. All right, let's move on. Do you want to play or not? It's an interesting topic, actually, though. That common, I guess, submission to the rules is actually called or referred to as the magic circle in games. Is an illusionary space of not real rules and not real world that we subject ourselves to for the sake of having fun. And it's just some weird, neat thing that humans can do.
Yep. Hey, technology explains everything, right?
Yeah,
Technology.
it's just you have to hit max level before you understand it, which might be kind of fair. Like the players wouldn't understand unless they have higher magic, and then they get to the point where it's just like it's just JavaScript ASM all the way down. Don't worry about it. You live in a virtual machine. You hit that point of meta awareness that you realize your whole world just exists on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
That's the max level mage. You start just watching the stream inside the game. What happened? This is the big bang of this world.
Everything that's happening now, we're seeing now. But what about then? It already passed. When? Just now. I love that movie. Okay, Pseudo and I know the movie. Quick Rage, name the movie.
God, my brain is not braining today. It's either Princess Bride or Spaceballs.
Spaceballs! Princess Bride. How could it be Princess Bride? Well, they don't watch movies in Princess Bride, do they?
There's a lot of silly
No,
things
but it
that
is
happen. A lot of meme
exactly the
content.
sort of tongue-in-cheek joke that they would make in Princess Bride.
That's true. That's true. But it is a very Mel Brooks joke, yes. Who is he? Lieutenant Commander Major Philip Asshole. Major Lieutenant Commander Philip Asshole. I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes. Oh, Rick Moranis. I'm gonna hide my cam so you don't watch me eat my muffin here, because I'm like, I've been drinking my tea without eating anything, and now I've got the caffeine bubbling around in my stomach. And it's all like, I'm mad. I hate angry caffeine.
As an example of level 1 magic, telling that somebody else is using some sort of that school of magic. Like if somebody's creating a thing, you would be able to tell that somebody is creating a thing.
B movie? What do you mean B movie? The movie was gold.
Yeah, but it was low budget.
Everything Mel Brooks does is solid gold. Was it really low budget? I don't know how low budget it was. Mel Brooks
I
has a
was going to
decent
say a lot
budget
of A
usually.
movies aren't A in quality; they're just A in budget. Spaceballs 22 million, then that's quite a bit.
Yeah, 22 million is not a B movie budget. It may look like a B movie, but that's just Mel Brooks style. That was a big production. I mean, look at the names.
Yeah, well, I guess he did spend
Moranis
it all on
and
cast,
Candy?
didn't he? Spent all that money on the cast, and it paid off.
Yep. Yeah, huge cast. Cast is way too big for a B movie. Just to keep Lucasfilms off him. Pizza the Hut! Oh, God. All right. You guys have access. You go ahead and put some examples in. There you go.
That requires brain.
Yeah, I'm getting some brand.
I contributed 2 things. I'm trying. I'm coming. I'll pull it up.
I don't have brain either, so I'm loading up with Bran. It's the next best thing.
Listen up.
It's almost like brain.
You just need some eye, and then you're good to go.
Grant us eyes.
Deleting an object. Matter 5. Lightning bolt.
Lightning bottle.
And that would actually be create energy.
Yep.
So that's what did we end up calling
Energy.
that?
Just call it energy.
Force and energy.
And forces are energy.
4.
Let's try to get some duplicate ones there. Like here, let me put one in. Create a rock and propel it at someone. Matter 4. Energy 4. Yeah. Which suddenly becomes a lot of work.
Yep, it would be 16
8.
levels of work.
4 matter 4
Or
energy.
no, you're right. 8 times 4, not 4 times 4.
32 work.
Which, if you're a rank 5 master in both of those schools, is possible,
In
but
one
very
turn.
unlikely.
Yeah. But that's going to be a lot of... That's a hell of an attack. That's just like, you're in a trapped vacuum and all of a sudden there's a rock projecting at the guy's head. That's pretty effective.
Yeah.
Or a piece of matter moving at high speed towards his dome.
We need an example of 2. What would be a good read example?
Is really life 5 all you need to just kill a person? I guess so.
Yep.
I guess attempt to
life
kill a
life
person.
5 is not easy.
No.
But
Still 20 work. 20 work, and I guess you'd need... in order to cast a spell, you need line of sight on the thing the whole time. We agree this?
Do we want to factor distance into that too? Like if you're closer to something, it'll be easier or farther away from something?
I'll put that in the questions. Does distance affect...
Because then I could see like
Required.
mage towers being super broken. But it might be an interesting thing too, right? Like all cities just have like this massive mage tower, and then like any offensive things coming up just get like
deleted.
exploded.
So what if I'm an energy wizard that uses a set of tungsten spikes? If you already have the spikes, then you're just creating the energy. The question is, if you find yourself without spikes, then you could be a matter mage to create said tungsten spikes and propel them without ever having to have tungsten. Or if you just had little tungsten cubes, you wouldn't have to create the spikes, but you could reshape them and update them to spikes and then project them.
I just had a great idea for an NPC. I want this like big, burly, strong. I'm just gonna say orc for now, even though it's, like we don't have any of that stuff. And then there's just like a little backpack or a hoodie, and there's just a small little mage in there, and all they do is like create little things to be thrown by the big guy. Hands it to them. That's it. And whispers in his ear what to do, and he just throws it. It's like throw to that guy, throw to that guy, and that's just a whole dynamic. I would love if you play the character just two personalities. The one intelligence is so low that the one other person's intelligence is so high that they just form a singular being.
What if the life mage created that as a construct, and it just carries him around, and then he creates things for it to his construct to throw? It's like a living catapult.
Yeah, it could be influence. It could just be like something he found and just like took it over,
Yep.
influenced it. This is my buddy now. This is mine. He's turned into a vehicle. Just throws things.
Doesn't even have to be humanoid at that point, right?
It'd
If,
be an
if
interesting
it's
little-
straight communication to the brain, it could just be a big bear that he rides around on.
Yeah, it could just be anything. And then once his vehicle gets damaged, he just has to find another one. I could see a whole community or species of these things. That's all they do. It's just they're specialized in influence and wisdom, and they just create things and then get other things to use them for them.
Yeah,
It
so
explains why they're so small, because they don't need anything for themselves. They just have other things do it for them. They've never needed to be larger
yeah.
or be strong.
Magpie, we already have magical armor as a thing in the game to sort of balance the magic system, and it increases the difficulty of casting spells in that area. So it'll take you an extra turn or two in order to finish your spell. That gives the other party time to, respond.
Break line of sight, remove the threat.
Yeah. Whereas that's why when you get to the really high levels where you can get a really big delta, all of a sudden, hey, I can pull off a delta big enough to create or update this object and propel it at the same time. They can't do shit about you anymore. Now you're a deadly mage. Instant. Instead of having to sit there and cast your spell and people are like, oh shit, let me walk behind this wall. I think that's where the balance is hopefully going to come from, is the time. That's where we're trying to balance spells, is time. Because melee attacks are instant. So if we can make magic not instant and keep melee instant, we can keep melee viable. Hopefully.
I also added an example of a rank 2 spell, being able to tell what matter somebody is creating would be matter 2.
I think we have enough decent little initial examples, even though they're simple. Excuse me, I just keep coughing or burping. Burps, little burps, that's what they are. Teeny tiny continuous burps that are working like hiccups.
Gross.
Yeah, it's most unpleasant. But I think this is enough for now, just because it keeps our idea straight. When we go to actually disperse this and hand it out to people, we'll need clear example sections for each type of each level, with 2 or 3 examples for every level, and then some combination examples and stuff. Making the magic take more turns viable if you can just remove all those armor and those rounds. I don't know what you mean. How are you going to remove the armor? I mean, if you're taking a bunch of turns to remove the armor and they're moving up and breaking line of sight and hiding from you and throwing stuff at you and hitting you to interrupt your spell, and you might not never finish it. It's a total possibility.
If you're trying to delete somebody's weapon and they run up and stab you, that doesn't end well.
So it's all about position and situation. That's the word I'm looking for. It's all about situation. Sometimes magic will be more powerful, sometimes melee will be more powerful. In an elevator, melee will win.
Most of the time. From what you see, turning someone's armor into not armor would be relatively low level. So that would be a minimum of level 3, which is 12 points of work, plus added work required based on how strong their armor is, plus you're working against their magic resistance rolls.
Should we maybe look at how much matter and whatnot can be altered? Maybe there should be a mass total per turn.
It gets really tricky
It
because
does.
like
We don't want to make
mass doesn't
too
mean
much.
size really, right?
Yeah.
You can have very, very dense things that are very small, or very, very giant things that, are mostly just air inside. Start putting people into giant balloons.
Yeah, 100 pounds of feathers versus 100 pounds of gold are very different things.
Dimension wise.
Yeah. Let's think about that a little bit. How do we feel?
I think if we wanted to have things be math based, that would be part of the hardcore add-on module.
So we're thinking just if they can think it, they can do it, and maybe we'll just leave it a little bit to the GM as well.
I think there'd probably have to be some module in which of like would make sense to the world that they're in, to why they know how to do the certain things they know how to do. It's possible, but you still have to explain why this person knows how to do it. And I think that part is where you can kind of rein in that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, sure, you can create, cyanide tablets in someone's tongue, but do you even know what cyanide is? And like, do you have to have, full line of sight, or, you can create giant rocks, but, what is a rock? Like, do you have to know the full composition of it? Do you have to be able to lift it while placing it in there? Or can you have to create it on a ledge? Like, is there a difference between, creating it on the ground and creating it in the air? Because while it's in the air, you need something to suspend it, because the moment it exists, it's going to have, force applied to it. So if you want it to, be instant, or is it work, or there's a few questions to ask there, but I think it comes.
You make it as a pebble and it just falls. If you want to make it into a bigger boulder, then yeah, you're going to need energy to hold it in the air while it grows over those turns.
Which I think is more of a hardcore approach. Like, it's something that we would have limb damage in that module. We would have armor degradation, weapon degradation in that module. We would have, more physics applied magic in that module.
Well, I think all of those would be different modules still that could be put together, so that you could have one or two of those things.
Sure, it would be really stupid to not use all of them. But I mean, I guess let the users shoot themselves in the foot. The core rules, I think, should be more player friendly, in that if you can think about something and figure out, how to make it work within the magic system, and you have enough magic to do it, then you can do it.
I do like that idea, because I just like having fun. As long as the magic doesn't make it less fun for other people.
Yeah. Which I think we should be able to achieve with a well-tuned work system. But I think there's also going to be a very fine line there of like just a little bit too much work and mages are useless.
Yep.
Because non-mages can just do their actions instantly.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely going to be a fine tuning system. And I don't think they need to be perfectly balanced. Just enough that it's worth playing what it is you want to play.
Yeah. Big agree. There should be advantages and disadvantages to magic and non-magical characters, and like we've been talking about this, like if you make a magical character, then all you do is magic, and that's not necessarily true. Like, you can still stab somebody if you're a mage.
Oh yeah.
It's not stopping you from doing that.
Yep. You just because you have access to magic doesn't mean all you use is magic. Magic should be a situational answer that is the best answer in those situations.
Yeah.
But a sword to the gut should be just as reasonable an answer to a situation. Because let's face it, it's really, really hard to cast a spell when you've got a sword in your gut.
True. Have we actually talked about concentration?
No. Nope, that is something we wanted to touch on, though. And I think I'm happy with defining these work spheres and an initial value for work and defining the spells down to 4 or the spheres down to 4. We've added does distance affect work required? Can we answer that? Because I feel like yes.
I feel like yes, but it should be fairly relaxed. Like,
Not a hard number, more of a perceptive thing. Because I really like the idea of the sense and thoughts mages being able to like affect spatial perception and roll up a tube of paper and make a magnifying glass or a telescope. Telescope is the word I'm looking for. Roll up paper and turn it into a telescope and use that to look far and then still be able to see there and cast a spell there.
yeah.
I guess it also depends on like how accurate the spell needs to be. I mean, if it's like a broad range of things, like if you're detecting, I mean, that's probably, at that point, it's how large of an area and the distance versus, if you're trying to create something. If you're trying to create something, right in front of you, it's probably a lot easier and a lot more accurate than trying to create something, very, very far away.
Okay, I added that question too. How large of an area can magic affect? And that's a very valid question. Will there be rune types? That's more down to the GM, I think, at that point. For their story, their setting. Some settings, runes are a big thing. They'll have rules for their own.
Will there be enchantments you can make them have a trigger?
We haven't talked about enchanting and crafting yet, but it's definitely something we want to get into, because I love crafting and enchanting.
Yeah.
Probably
it's
next
something
session.
We definitely want to talk about. The initial thought that I had for distance is 100 meters times level more work. So if you want to do something 100 meters away, that adds
1 work.
Every 100 meters would be like 1 level times 5 or 4 if that's what we end up using. Like every 100 meters essentially adds
4 work.
Another chunk of work. Like whatever your work for that spell would be gets added on for every 100 meters you go out.
I don't know if I like linear scaling for that. It makes more sense for it to go more exponential as you go farther and farther and farther out.
I did consider that as well, but like Pseudo said, there are spells that make a lot of sense for them to be able to happen over very wide areas.
It might be something that we have to just have guidelines for, and then it's just up to DM discretion or GM discretion when it's asked. But consistency is going to be kind of important, so it's nice to have something to reference to. But I think that's something that we're just going to have the questions there, and then that's going to kind of come up and go over during actual play sessions, because it may be a bit too hard to just kind of visualize it and interpret it without actually trying to use it in a scenario.
I'm 100% with you. That's why I stuck to-dos there. I don't think we can answer them yet. I think we need to play with it. See how it all interacts. We got a lot of systems already.
So to start with, maybe we say, well, are we going to measure in meters or feet?
Meters.
Meters. Okay. Feeders. How about we say like every 50 meters adds on another one of the work total for testing purposes, something like that, and we can see how strong that is. Oh, there are plenty of functions that you can use to describe a scale like this, but it's deciding on which one to use is the tricky part.
Yeah, I mean, we can correlate it to like, you know, an archer shooting a bow, like how far they can do it, because there's also going to, you know, be a theoretical limit to how far they can even affect things. So when we contrast to that, I don't know if we've touched on that yet, even, you know, determining how far you can shoot something, because then we can probably correlate the same thing.
Yeah, usually that's done by the bow. Usually. Every other game does it by bow, and for very valid reasons, because it's really about the tension and the design of the bow for how far an arrow goes.
Versus a firearm where there's the construction of the firearm itself, and as well as the bullet.
The charge of the cartridge, yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a bit of the systems that I'm used to. There's always like a maximum that the bows can do, but it's rare that someone can get to that maximum without having a certain amount of strength to be able to create that tension. Firearms are that case where they just have their range.
Yeah,
they just do it.
Yeah, I mean, bows usually do have a minimum strength as well on them in like D&D and stuff like that.
Throwable objects then, like the difficulty for throwing an object somewhere. Like there's a theoretical distance to that.
Yep.
Like just something along those lines. Like my point is there should be some overlaps between this and the physical system. At least hopefully, because it'll keep things a bit cleaner.
I 100% agree. You know me. I've been pushing that since the very, very, very beginning of this project, that all the systems need to work in any area so that it makes fucking sense. You can learn it and then just apply it.
So if we think about character-based physical ranged attacks, like, you know, a bow or a sling or throwing a rock, as opposed to a firearm, it would make sense to have distance scaled by both strength and precision. With magic, would it make sense to have distance scaled by resolve and influence? Why not?
It leaves out knowledge and wisdom too much, and they really need the range more than anyone. Force and energy and matter.
True. It doesn't make, like, logical sense to have it scaled off knowledge and wisdom, which, frankly, like, it makes way more gameplay sense to have it scaled off knowledge and wisdom, but it doesn't make logical sense. Because, like, even if say you're a physics mage, you're an energy mage, your primary stat is knowledge. I think it makes sense to have a secondary in influence to allow you to extend your range.
It could be down to the skills themselves too. Like the distance of the skill could be determined by some sort of secondary stat. Because it's one of those things where some of the stuff, it gets very contextual, which is what I'm kind of fighting on right now. Is like there's a big difference between like doing a scan of an area and critting a fireball the size of an area.
Yeah. Well, there's different spell level too, but yeah, very, very different.
Which is why I'm thinking it will probably need to be scaled off something that isn't directly related to the skill.
So I'm thinking, and I don't know how well it fits, and I don't know how good of an idea it is, but I'm thinking if we can have like a mental prowess derived total, we could base a lot of stuff off of that, where it is derived from all of your mental stats. So it doesn't matter which one you go into heavy. If you go into one heavy and someone goes into another one heavy and you have the same stat total with a different dispersion, you'll have the same mental prowess level. And I think we could probably apply the same thing to the physical stats and find some uses for it. And it's a derived total, so doing some math to get it is fine because it only has to be done whenever your stats change, and it's one quick bit, and you write the number.
That's one of my concerns is that like the math. But if it's just a one-off, that's fine. The other thing I was thinking of, we have the idea of like the mental fortitude, right? It could be something based off of that, like kind of goes in that area of concentration. You know, the farther something away is, the more you're going to actually have to concentrate on it. And if your concentration gets broken, it's, you know, not going to happen. If it's closer to you, it's going to be, you know, easier to
and that sort of
to target that.
Yeah, that's a skill then, which is cool. You spend some extra points on the skill and become better at that aspect of magic. And we can definitely have some magic skills in there for it. And I wasn't really sure about how I liked my idea, but as soon as Suda started talking about skills, it's like, well, we got to base the skill on something. What if certain skills are based on physical and mental prowess rather than an individual stat?
Yeah, I mean, if we have eyesight, like if it's like, if you need to have line of sight, then it kind of, you know, there's a physical component to it, and like they need to physically see it as well. So maybe there's some mix of physical components that go into it. Like part of, you know, the magic to create a boulder above it is you need to be, you know, strong enough to actually, you know, channel some of that strength from where you are now to under that boulder so it holds it up. Or if you're moving it, it's not just a complete mystical force that does it. Maybe you actually just take the force that you generate around you with your muscles and amplify it, but then move it, kind of ideas, or something like that if I want to explain it. But we can have a mix of the two, so you can start having those like beefy battle mages that are, you know, a mix of that. But it could also get murky where we start having the points spread everywhere, and if you like maxing into something may then just be not be able to do much. It might be a bit tricky when it comes to balance, but I think we're getting pretty close to the point of like starting to set up scenarios and prototyping through them.
I don't like the idea of relying on a stat that is derived from the other category.
What do you mean other category?
Like, be it physical combat or mental combat.
Yeah,
like
yeah, I
relying
agree.
on the other one.
I agree we shouldn't look at the physical prowess for magical casting, and we shouldn't look at the magical prowess for physical skills. I just see it as a potential way to get a value for physical and mental that will allow us to have a derived value from stats that can apply to skills and other things where it's just a physical thing and not necessarily a specific stat. I can't think of any use for the physical side of it yet. It only makes sense on the magical side with magic in order to create a magical stat from the player stats that will grow and change with the player as he evolves.
I think for now we might just be complicating things a bit. We could even just put in some hard limits on skills and then try using them and see if it feels restrictive. And if it is, then
as it stands, there is not a whole lot of reason to take skills as a mage. The way that we could encourage that is by giving them utility to their magic and having a resolved based skill that allows you to cast farther out. So the more resolve you have, the farther out you can cast when you take ranks in that skill. And if you want to be super powerful but don't necessarily care about being able to do things at great ranges, like say you want to be able to just fucking blow things up. You just create a shitload of energy in a small space and able to shield yourself from it. You probably don't need to care about that.
So what I'm intuiting here and kind of seeing is in the magic skill system, we have a size skill, we have a range skill, we have all these other skills that you can apply to your spells to help define their size and area and effect and stuff like that. And then those skills will have to be taken and also will come with a work modifier.
Yes. The work modifier I honestly hadn't thought about, but as soon as Pseudo brought up skills, I was just like, wait, there's no reason to take skills as a mage.
Well, there's no reason to take melee skills and whatnot, but then there's, knowledge and those general play skills that are still needed for a mage. But I'm cool with adding a whole skill section to the magic to give us the granular control of size and scale and even speed and stuff like that. And maybe we can look at, doing the opposite on some of the skills where it reduces their size and reduces stuff like that, but makes it quicker and reduces work cost and stuff like that. So you can make like a cantrip type idea where you can do it quicker, but it's going to have less effect. I think we can add a lot of versatility to those
I just
skills.
thought of a sick magic skill, Flashcast. As you rank it up, you can instantly achieve a certain amount of work.
Yeah. Or even like a pre-do the work, have it stored in your head and recall it and stuff like that to get quicker casts, and lots of ways that we can do that. So yeah, let's evolve the magic system with magic skills. The skill system.
That reminds me, I can't remember what system does it, but there was the consumable scroll. I can't remember which game it is that's the way they utilized that was that the wizards in their off time would basically do most of the work that's needed for the spell, but then store it on the scroll. So when they needed it fast, they would take it and then finish and use it, but then it would actually consume the magic that was stored, basically. It wasn't like a paper kind of scroll. It was like an item that could store, the work, store the magic, which means that it didn't need as much, time for it, but it was restricted to whatever it was they were planning for that thing to be, and they just, grab it and then they can finish it and then
like a little magic cache.
Yeah,
I want it. I love it. Put it in the game.
Yeah, so you basically will have like a mage where they just have like a shotgun belt of little spells they'll just grab, and it's like how they would cast fireball. They just kind of like predetermined fireball a bunch of times, and in their off time, it's kind of like how D&D you can only cast so much a day before you're just tired. It can be that same effect, but when you rest, you're just preparing your ammo again, basically your casts again, and then that's how you can have like a small fireball almost be instant, because it's cheaper for you to finish that cast that you had ready, but a larger one will require a bit more of work to still finish what's on the or within the item.
You guys both
just had an
throw
idea
ideas
for...
down. Okay, I've got the page out. I've started it. We're going to move it to its own page, but you guys can write ideas down. But I've really got to use the little boys' room. I'll be back.
I just had an idea for a gish that creates stored explosions and matter creations inside shotgun shells.
Oh god. A shotgun mage would be hilarious. Like dual barrel, one thing does one thing, the other one does another thing. Just
be so dope. It's so stupid and broken.
I'm just imagining like heavy weapons guy, but as a mage. Just a big old mini gun. Just different effects.
Okay, so a high level magic skills idea. What have we got so far? We've got spell storage, which would allow you to use containers to create essentially magic cartridges.
Yeah, like the flash casts or something like that. I like that idea.
Spell storage, magic.
And then there could be like limitations to them, and that could just be something that's, maybe another skill that someone can rank into is, actually crafting the flash casts, like the molds, and then an actual mage can then, write and enchant them.
Freedom work that can be applied to spells based on skill level. Level determines creation time. What else did we think up? What else would be dumb?
I think for Flashcast, it should probably be there should be a level requirement to even just being able to use it, just to prevent like, because I could see a loophole happening where someone's strong enough to, and unless that's something we want, I guess maybe some level of something.
So
as long as we don't get the thing where like one super powerful being could just create these flash casts and just give them to everybody, and they just like can be super strong without knowing any magic. So there might be like, I guess like some degree. The way I imagine it working is that like it's something that's like 90% done, and you have to finish the 10%. But if you don't even know how to even start the 10%, then like it's just like a paperweight to you.
Yes, and that's why I defined flash casts as pre-done work that can be applied to skills based on skill level, and didn't put any hard numbers or anything in there. And spell storage, which is more like the scroll idea, like you have a consumable item that has a consumable spell in it, but will be incredibly expensive and hard to make. It doesn't require you to know that spell in the first place, but you do need enough magic to be able to activate that spell. Whereas flash cast is just, you don't have to do n points of work. So distance scaling, sniper mage, distance scaling, bomber mage, AoE scaling, counter spells would just be spells. You would just destroy their spell.
Yeah, like someone's creating fireball, you can, remove oxygen, or you can put something in the way of it, like you summon a rock that it hits, or you deflect it. It'd have to be, there's no like blanket counter spell. You would have to like think of a way to counter the spell with the tools that you have, which could also just be like matrix dodge.
Or perception, making them think you're, 50 feet to the right. Hey, Delos. What else? What else can we add for magic skills? I really love the idea of spell storage and being able to use just like miscellaneous things for it.
It's like the spells that like create food in D&D. You just have that, but it's like instead of a bag of chips, it's just you open it and then you throw the thing in, and it's like an MRE. It just spawns a bowl of potato chips in it, and you start eating out of it. Put it away. Magic armor should probably be something that's part of like a magic skill you can tune into, being able to like craft or reinforce that stuff.
Artificer work.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. And then enchantments, if we have that, if we ever talk about that, meaning to enchanting or attuning of non-organic materials.
Imbuing and
imbuement, whatever that word is.
That is the word you were looking for. So enchant and attune. So that brings up that brings up an interesting idea of needing to attune to a piece of mage armor. I'm not sure I like that, because you shouldn't need to be magical to wear mage armor.
I guess it might depend on the armor. Maybe certain armors do need it, or maybe not. Like it could be built like there could be like cheaper armors that like require some attunement, but the more expensive ones, don't.
You just put it on and you're good to go.
Yeah, so like most mages just kind of put on basically like a framework of mage armor, and they can kind of just activate it or like do that last 10% that they need. Because there'll probably be a mix between some actual armor with magical properties, and it as long as we don't get to the point where like someone can wear plate and wear like super magic armor but not have to have both of those kind of defensive stats. I would assume the magic armor will have some sort of scaling off that mental fortitude to be able to kind of maintain that up.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's just like the way the character that sort of breaks a lot of these systems is my anti-mage character that I've wanted to make, and is just incredibly hard to do in any system that I've played with, because he is so unmagical that magic doesn't affect him, but like the one of the things that character would want to have is an anti-mage armor to protect him from like somebody hitting him with the fireball, rather than, you know, just snuffing out his life.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's magic, right? Like, there has to be some magical thing against magic. Just like there'd have to be some physical thing against physical attack.
But if, like, you know, Artificer essentially using spell storage on a coat can give you that additional DR, then, well, I suppose if you can just consume that magic regardless, man, this would make being an armorer super fucking desired. Like, mage armor would be so expensive if you didn't need to tap into it with magic. But you would then be able to just wear it and activate it without necessarily needing to finish the spell, so to speak.
It could be something that's maybe part of a consumable, like they sell the armor, but they also sell the storage to activate it, and you just got to keep doing it, like buying those things unless you know how to make it yourself, or have someone who knows how to make those for you if you want that like super strong armor. Or there's the two approaches, either having it like that, so there's more of like a limited use case, because it'd be pretty strong. The other side is just having it be more expensive to create and more difficult to create, which means it just costs more, but, you know, it's just higher desired loot at that point. If you get it, then it's like a, you know, more of like the end game kind of armor you get.
Which I think is probably a good thing, because it would allow my anti-mage to scale, but also have quite a bit of requirement to it. Like, you would need to be well connected, you would need to have a lot of resources, and you wouldn't, like, it wouldn't be something that you would be able to achieve at the start of the game. Like, you just wouldn't have the resources to do it.
It's going to have to be a build that gets kind of like specialized or special cases. Otherwise, like, everyone would have just killed mages if it was something that was like anyone can kind of do. So it would probably be something that either they just have some, you know, either through lore backstory or species have some special attunement that just allows them this property of being able to do this, or they just, you know, maybe through backstory just had someone, an artificer in the family, who taught them this when they were younger, so they know how to do this. But other than that, they've shut out all magic, and they just use it as a means to the end to be able to take out this. That, or it could be something that just literally built into them, like part of like they were genetically engineered to be like
their
that
skeleton
sort of thing, like Wolverine, like just that's literally in their bones. This property that provides this anti-magic resist.
Wolverine's maybe not
scales up.
Maybe not the best example, because he was actually artificially created.
His healing wasn't.
His healing wasn't, but the metal bones was. His healing is the only reason the metal bones were possible. Everyone else they injected metal into the bones of died, but he heals fast enough that it worked. It's a shitty experiment.
But yeah, like I like the idea of magic being powerful enough to affect future generations. Like, that in my brain is super sick. So like, if somebody, you know, somebody's family got cursed by some mage who just put in an insane amount of work to say that you will never have magic again. No one in your family will. And then a byproduct of that was that they also can't be affected by the magic as much. Yeah, I mean, that could be just explained by they just have that magic
fuzziness around them at all times, which prevents them from being able to use anything within them, but also really prevents anything from penetrating into it.
Yeah, if it was strong enough, then when they try to cast, they might just think that they can't when they're not just not doing enough work. And anybody teaching them will be like, well, you've done enough work. It should be happening. I don't know what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
I've done a quick read here already. Artificer work is enchant and attune. That's the only one that isn't like super clear, but enchant and attune is mostly clear. I do like where this is going.
Just jotted it down as notes.
Yeah, I do like where it's going. This is exactly what I was expecting to see.
Oh. I gotta hop off.
Yep.
I lost track of the time. Got into it.
Yep, you go do your school thing, Pseudo. Thank you for the
school things.
All the time that you've put into this project. It is super helpful.
It's been fun.
Yeah, it wouldn't be where it is without you. So you go do your thing.
Right. Have a good night, everybody.
Night night.
Nighty night.
Bye. Yeah, I think my favorite thing about this magic skill system so far is that it's going to help explain and define scale and distance and stuff like that for the spells. It creates a framework to put numbers to things.
Yeah, because we have such an open-ended system that, like, technically folding time and space is just not matter update, energy update. Like, that's kind of nuts.
As a GM, I would argue that you're going to need so much energy in order to create that fold that you need to create.
Yeah, you don't though. But anyway, the way that the skills can be used to scale those so that it requires character investment, it requires more like more time playing the character, more experience on the character to be able to achieve larger and more powerful effects. I think it'll work really well.
Huh? Orphanage?
Magpie's in Full Metal Alchemist mode. I don't think you've watched Full Metal Alchemist, have you?
Yes, I have.
Oh, you did?
Yep.
Huh.
At least the first season bit of Brotherhood.
I never watched Brotherhood. I just watched the original, which apparently split off from the manga very quickly.
Brotherhood was quite good. I quite enjoyed it. Gave me the ideals. I get the gist of the show, at least. It wasn't enough to keep me invested, though. I only need one kid and a dog.
Brutal.
Brotherhood is very good. You cried a lot. Started it rough with the dog scene. Is that Brotherhood or the original one?
It's in the original. I don't know if it's in.
I don't remember anything like that in the Brotherhood one. I never saw the original, so that means absolutely nothing to me. And I watched the beginning of Brotherhood. That must not be.
It's a ways in the original, so you probably didn't see it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I probably didn't. I didn't finish. They got I met like 2 or 3 of the sins. That was it.
Yeah, I have no idea what the pacing is in Brotherhood.
There's more lead up, and it's later in Brotherhood. Okay, yeah, I probably didn't get to it then. Didn't hold my interest long enough. So let me just do this real quick. Skills. Seems like a good place to put the skills system.
Yeah.
Go away. Oh, I lost it. Just giving them simpler names for now. Consumable magic level difference. So let's think about spell storage a little bit first and define some numbers for it before we move on. Because this is one of the most breakable.
Oh, absolutely, and I love it. But before we get into that, Magpie has brought up a couple of times, if we have the ability to sense magic, should we be able to stop somebody from being able to sense your magic? As a skill.
I mean, I can think of ways to obfuscate it and stuff to make it harder to tell. It's possible to add in a skill that would, when applied to your spells, increase the work total for you to cast it and increase the work total for them to identify it.
Yeah, that's one of the options I thought of. Another one would be to intentionally decrease the amount of work done per turn, because the amount of work you're achieving is the magnitude of the magic that you're using.
The buildup of it is still noticeable, I'd imagine, though.
Not if you do it slow enough. Gotta be real slow, though.
I think the obfuscation method would probably be the best way to do the skill. Essentially, like you're not just casting your spell; you're doing other little effects around you as well, so they can't isolate exactly what's happening and where it's happening. The same idea is like, you need to escort a guy to a building, so you send out 6 vehicles and he's in one of them.
Yeah.
And increasing the work needed to cast and detect means if they're just as good a mage as you, then they're probably going to be able to keep up with you. But if you're a better mage than them, then you can get it done before they can figure out what you're doing. Unless you're rolling better than them. You use some sort of words or movement that non-mages can observe. We haven't talked about verbal and somatic components yet. So far, it's just a mental thing. Because it's not like your traditional, like, weaving magic. This is more like a mental control over the universe. Kind of cool.
Although you could totally use verbal and somatic components just to make yourself into an anime protagonist.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, it's like Rage said, there's nothing stopping the mage from just being showy. That's totally something they can do. And that takes them from mage into magician. It's just an act. Fireball? Uh-oh. That like launching a roller coaster at somebody?
I'm terrifying.
Giant,
a huge amount of matter creation.
Giant Ferris wheel just starts rolling down the hill towards them.
And they pull what was that movie? Where they were running away from the rolling thing and they just keep running away from it rather than running perpendicular like dumbasses.
Every movie? Pretty sure that's every movie.
It's the spiritual successor to the Alien franchise.
Oh, Prometheus?
Made by, yes.
I mean, that happens in lots of movies.
Yeah, it's true.
That's as common as running upstairs when the killer breaks in the house.
Yeah.
Though, we proved, using Tarkov, if you are stuck on the second floor, jump out the window. It worked really well.
Third floor, probably not such a great idea.
Third floor doesn't work as well. Second floor was great, though. That sucked. We were stuck in dorms and like people coming up ball sides. And we're like, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Window! Run! We got away.
Yep.
They didn't expect it. They for some reason didn't think we would just jump out the window on the second floor and run.
Either that or they were like, that's too much work. It's horrifying.
Yeah, I mean, it's a blast sometimes, and the rest of the time it's just suffering and pain.
But I mean, you can kind of say the same thing about Dark Souls in a lot of ways. It's just that Dark Souls is a lot more polished than Tarkov is.
Yeah, you get to spend more time in-game in Dark Souls, actually learning the skills.
Yeah, do not recommend Tarkov unless it's something that you are absolutely sure you want to play. I enjoy it because I am really into hardcore shooters with massive consequence, and I love the looting system.
I love the customization system. I love the rewarding feeling when you actually kill someone. It's super rewarding when you actually make that shot and the person drops you like, fuck yeah, I get all that loot.
Yep.
It sounded fun to play with you guys. No, it's not fun to play with us, I promise you. It's not.
The most optimal group size in Tarkov is 2.
Yeah, 3 is pushing it, and if you're at 3 or above, every person in the group needs to really know the game, really know the maps, and have a decent understanding of what the other person on their team is going to do. Otherwise, you're just going to shoot your own teammates.
It's your fault for telling all these cool stories. I mean, it is a really cool game. It is. It's an excellent game design that's implemented very poorly.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool emergent gameplay in it. The game that you're playing isn't the game that you're experiencing in Tarkov. It's strange. It's the stories that come out weren't meant to come out. They just come out through a bunch of actual people interacting with each other in a dangerous situation where everyone's worried about their life. Everyone's adrenaline is pumping. And just don't shoot the guy with the Alton.
Unless he's running at you. Then shoot the guy with the Alton.
A lot. In the legs.
Yes.
Needlac had a story like that not long ago. He saw a team down there and he was up hiding in a bush on a hill and he had a sniper rifle and he plinked a guy in the head and it just bounced off of him because he had an Alton. And then this group of like 3 Chads just turned and started stomping up the hill that he was on. He hid in a bush and they didn't find him. They just came up and looked around and left. And he was just sitting in the bush going, I'm not making a sound.
I'm not moving. If they find me, I die. I'm not moving.
Okay, I think that's about the stream. That's 2 hours.
Yeah, I'm getting real hungry.
Yeah.
And Nariel is making pizza, and it smells really good.
Pizza sounds great. You want to play some Risk of Rain 2 after dinner?
Sure.
Or maybe some Insurgency or something?
I definitely want to play with Railgunner some more.
Okay.
I think Railgunner is super cool.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen all of the new content yet. We still need to get the new boss.
Yeah, we haven't seen the new boss. We haven't seen the new class that has to get unlocked. We haven't unlocked any of the new abilities for Gunner or Railgunner. Trying to think of more questions to ask. Well, we will be doing this again in 2 weeks. So write down your questions. This isn't going anywhere. Will there be summoning mechanics in the game? Not yet.
I mean, you could make them, but it would take an insane amount of magic. You'd need create matter, create life, and update perception at the very least.
Matter and life should do it.
Yeah, but to be able to actually control whatever you summon?
Oh, if you want to be able to like go into it and control it, then yeah. But if it was just like a summoned skeleton that fights alongside you, matter and life should do it. Actually, just life, because the skeleton's not matter. Now, if you wanted to create like a clay golem, you need matter and life.
I would argue that you would still need to use matter, because you would need to create the structure. Like, unless you had a skeleton that was already laying there.
If you had a skeleton that was already laying there, you just need life.
Yeah.
But so at least in the so let's talk about this real quick, and it'll be on video. At least in the realm of White Wolf, where the system came from, anything living, even if it's living matter, needed life.
Yes.
Right? So even if it's bone, it's living matter. It used to be alive. It's made from organic material.
So I think that's the key there. Is if it is organic material, then it needs life. If it is inorganic material, then it does not.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was just trying to get at. Because the skeleton would be life. It's living, it's organic material. You use life to create it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you just wanted to have a skeleton companion, you could actually do it with just life. You could actually be a necromancer with just life magic.
I still feel like you would need perception, though, to get them to do what you want. But
yeah, I think you would need perception to like see through their eyes.
Wander. Well, no, you still need, like, if you want to change what somebody else thinks about something, you need perception, right? So if you just wanted to create some skeletons and have them patrol around and guard your keep, then you could just create them there, and then they'll fight anybody who comes. But if you wanted to specifically say, I need all of you to go attack that guy, then you would need perception to do it.
I see what you're getting at. You need you could also see an argument for no, because mind. Perception is fully mind. Yeah, I guess yeah. If you wanted them to have like an AI controller attached to them. But if you just wanted them to like stand and do a simple thing, then yeah, no. Okay. Yeah, these are the kind of things we'd have to come up with and give examples for. This is where we need the example section for the magic to help define ideas and basics so that you can expand on it and use it yourself. But yeah, no, totally. Summoning is already kind of a thing. Creating life and commanding it is already in the magic system.
And if you wanted to summon a creature from another world or something, that would be campaign dependent.
Yeah. I kind of love that idea. A little RC car controller. Use like a drone controller to fly your animated bat around.
Modern setting mages are so broken.
Oh, you could totally have the remote control from that terribly cheesy Adam Sandler movie that I liked anyway. Click.
Yeah, you could.
Yep. Yeah, just like mute people. Walks up and starts talking. You're like, fuck off, mute. I love it. The system is more and more and more fun every time we work on it.
I think magic skills are going to solve a lot of problems with the magic system.
Absolutely. I know there's many problems in the magic system, but I know that we're going to solve them all, so I'm not worried about it. The debuff on modern mages is just the sheer amount of caffeine consumption on the mind and budget. Oh wait, there is some in there. Caffeine-ated. Well, yeah. I think we wrap up now. We wrap up and go
I'm
eat.
hungry.
Yep. So, thanks for hanging out, Magpie. and Scornful. I hope you enjoyed some of the game design, and I saw a little bit of Jesus Farted talking up there, and there's a bunch of lurkers, people who like making games. Bye-bye, Dragon Magpie. Thanks for all the ideas. You're super useful. You really are. You help us a lot while we're doing this. We love having you around here. Please keep coming and helping. You're making this game a better game. And it's some nice experience for all of us.
Yeah.
It really is. The more you make these, the better you get at making them. And this is my 4th one, so that's why we're actually getting somewhere with this system. Because we actually almost know what we're talking about. Almost. So, we might have multiplayer games later. It sounds like there might be some Risk of Rain 2 later, but don't hold your breath because I don't want you to pass out.
True.
But I hope to be back, because I always say I hope to be back, and I never am. So I really hope to be back, because I really want to play more Risk of Rain 2. I really do.
Good.
I really like that game. I really want to play more. So, thanks for hanging out. I'm Deus.
And I'm Rage.
And may all your shots be headshots.